serve on the, can you hear me? Good morning again. And welcome to the Greenville UU Fellowship. My name is Sabrina Walker, and I serve on the Shared Ministry Committee, the Pastoral Committee, and the Welcoming Committee. And whether you've been with us on Sundays for a long time or just visiting us, today we welcome you to the service. This congregation is theologically diverse, and it's a religious community with participation open to all who agree to live into our principles, missions, and values. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, races, ethnicities, and abilities, and we unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self to our community of caring and commitment to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our congregational mission is to strengthen our connections to one another and our planet by enlivening minds and spirits, building community through liberating love, and advocating fiercely for justice. It is a custom in this congregation to acknowledge visitors and newcomers. If it's your first time here, would you mind raising your hand so that we can acknowledge you? Oh, there's quite a few. Yeah. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. All are invited to join us for coffee after the service. New and newer folks are invited to grab the green mug. I think it's actually still broken from last time. But anyway, it's located just inside the door of the fellowship hall so that we can easily spot you and speak to you during our coffee hour. You are also welcome to fill out one of the green cards that can be found in the backs of the pews so that we can keep in touch. Simply drop the card in the offering basket or in the box at the welcome table in the foyer. Please know that whatever your religious history, whatever your personal theology, all people of goodwill are welcome here. Your presence makes us better. Your presence makes us whole. And we have a short announcement from Maureen Neary.
Well, do y'all know who LeVar Burton is? I have to say he's looking better as he ages. So, of course, he was the guy in Roots. He was in the Star Wars movies. And most importantly, he, I didn't watch him. He did Reading Rainbow. And this year, he is the honorary chair of the American Library Association's Banned Book Week, which starts today. And here's what he said. Books bring us together. They teach us about the world and about each other. The ability to read and access books is a fundamental right and a necessity for lifelong success. But books are under attack. They're being removed from libraries and schools. Shelves have been emptied because of a small number of people and their misguided efforts towards censorship. Public advocacy campaigns like Banned Books Week are essential to helping people understand the scope of book censorship and what they can do to fight it. So we're going to do our part here next Sunday, October the 8th, after the service. The Welcoming Congregation Committee and the Women's Book Club are hosting the Banned Book Challenge Day at 12:30 in the Fellowship Hall. And we'll have a Traveler's Rest librarian here to answer questions. There will be a $25 Barnes & Noble gift drawing. You have to buy a band. No, I'm kidding. Also, free bookmarks, free pizza, and salad. Because we will offer lunch, we would appreciate you telling us in advance that you'll be there, and we hope you all will. Please don't miss this timely gathering. I mean, for Pete's sakes, they've banned To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, we've got to do something. Thank you.
And just one other very brief announcement. The Welcoming Committee is also launching pre-sales of the calendar today and anytime from today till November 5th. So if you're interested, please see a welcoming committee member. Let the service begin.
Good morning. Our chalice lighting this morning is from George Fox, a leader in the 17th century Christian awakening from which became the Quaker movement, now known as the Society of Friends or the Friends Church. Be still and cool in thine own mind and spirit. Our call to worship this morning is from Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of achievement are but experiences of time. For yesterday is a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision, and today, well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation of the ever-new dawn. Now please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 21.
morning. I'm David Funderburg. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at GOOF. And if I welcome anyone, children, youth, or anyone of any age to come up closer to hear the story and sit either in the front pews or the floor at the base of the steps. So our overarching theme for the next month is heritage. And when I think of heritage, I think of roots. When I think of roots, I think of trees. And I asked Scott Henderson, our guest speaker today, what he was going to be speaking of. And he said something about needing to take other people's perspectives into account and seeing things from other perspectives, and then learning that there may not be that much of a difference between you and others after all. So with all that in mind, our story today is called Be a Tree. And I will ask you, as we read, to imagine what it would be like to see the world from a tree's perspective. And ask yourself, what might we really have in common with trees that you didn't realize before? And this is written by Maria Gianferrari and illustrated by Felicita Sala. Be a tree. Stand tall. Stretch your branches to the sun. Let your roots curl, coil in the soil to ground you. Your spine is a trunk, giving you shape, holding your crown, channeling your food. Your skin is bark, dead on the outside, protecting what's within. Beneath your bark are layers, such as sapwood, carrying nutrients to help you grow bigger and taller, and hardwood, strong as bone, to support you. In your heart center is your pith, keeper of nutrients, when you were a sapling. High above, your crown may be round, weeping, pyramidal, broad. Let it spread, shine overhead, collecting sun, filtering dust, shading your roots on hot days. Wave your leaves in the wind, breathe in air, drink in sun, let them fuel you and the world. See yourself, branches and leaves above, roots below, trunk in between. You are a tree. And now, look around you. You are not alone. You are one of many trees. Our roots twine with fungi, joining all trees in the forest together. We talk, share food, store water, divide resources, alert each other to danger. A wood wide web of information. We purify the air. We anchor the soil, preventing erosion. Our dome of joined crowns swings and straightens, slowing high winds. Our bodies and branches and roots are homes to birds and mammals and insects. We sustain ecosystems. Immigrant trees, away from their native habitats, are vulnerable. I need some extra hands for this part. But together, a forest of trees is strong. Mother trees nurse young trees. Old trees shade new trees. Strong trees shelter weak trees. Healthy trees help sick trees. A family, a community, a country, a cosmos. There is enough for all. So, be a tree, for together we are a forest. Thank you for listening. Now, one note, any K through 5 children who are here, I'd love for you to follow me out so we can go to classes. And if you are a parent who has a kindergarten through 3rd grade kid who's going to Spirit Play, we're going to have all one class today. So everyone will be picked up at the far classroom at the end of the hall on the right. So we'll see you then.
Our congregation is entirely self-governed by democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all the financial support for our many ministries among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of the giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of this congregation. Thank you. It is custom in our fellowship to share the joys and the sorrows that shape our lives, honoring each one with the lighting of a candle. We recognize that life is not always easy and that we all have moments of celebration and struggle. We believe that by sharing these experiences with one another, we can celebrate with support and uplift each other as we navigate the significant events in our lives. We have quite a few today. From Meredy Harper, a candle of concern for my 96-year-old mother who is hospitalized with extreme AFib. She is very weak, but still has her sweet disposition. I had to call in some reinforcements today. From Harry Stone, Nancy Sampson, who worked the floral counter at Ingalls and Greer, died in a fall during a hike in North Carolina. She was friendly and had a smiling face. She will be missed. A candle of joy from Amanda Powell. A candle of celebration for my brother Neil and his wife Kendra. They just found out they are expecting their second child in April. From Bree Mosley, please keep our nephew J.O. in your thoughts and prayers. His little body has been very sick with no diagnosis or successful treatment so far. May he be surrounded in love and light, and may his parents and grandmother find strength and patience as Gio's doctors and nurses work to bring him back to health. John Del Favreau laments the fact that his hometown team of the Syracuse Orangemen were destroyed by the Clemson Tigers yesterday. He also asks for thoughts and prayers for the remainder of the season.
You want 2 candles for that?
No. Just the one. From Laura Christianberry, wearing pink today and every day this month in honor of my sister Carol, a 16-year breast cancer survivor, all the survivors, and all those who have lost the fight. Beth Dragon is recovering from recent foot surgery and has been moved to NHC Greer for rehab. Things got off to a rough start, but she's now doing much better. Visits and cards are appreciated. I almost read that as got off on the wrong foot. I know, I thought it said that. I was like, no. Nope, that's just me. Our goof reincarnated kitty, Sunshine, has suffered an injury to his tail. He's scheduled to have it amputated Monday morning. Please send him your love and light. Hopefully he'll be as happy as a bobcat as he has been as a regular cat. That is from Kat, Scott, and Jackson Stellern. We will now light one final candle for any unspoken joys and sorrows that remain within us. We will now have a moment of silence before the music begins.
I have to apologize. Earlier during the welcome, I had choked on a lifesaver, and it's gone now. I'm good. Okay. Dr. Scott Henderson is the William R. Kenan Jr. Professor of Education at Furman University. Prior to that, he was a secondary social studies teacher in Chesapeake, Virginia, an English instructor in Yamagata, Japan, and an adjunct history professor. He has published books and articles on various aspects of American history, pedagogy, poetry, and most recently, he edited Colors of the Rainbow, Voices from Furman University's LGBTQIA plus community. And this is the book. I will have it out near the bookshelf, the banned bookshelf. It's not banned. Dr. Henderson is currently Furman's Director of National and International Scholarships. He also happens to be the kindest and, as you noticed, funniest man I've ever met. It's absolutely no wonder that his students love him. Please welcome Dr. Henderson.
In full disclosure, Sabrina only charged $100 for that last comment she made. I'm delighted to be here this morning. I think I'll have this timed just about right. Sabrina said I needed to fill 2 hours. No, she said 3. I'd like to thank the UU Fellowship of Greenville for giving me the opportunity this morning to spend a little time with you. I have always felt an affinity with Unitarians, even though I was raised a Methodist and eventually wandered into Quakerism. I once attended a reception where the former U.S. Attorney General Elliot Richardson spoke about his having been brought up as a Unitarian in his consciously droll Bostonian accent, which I won't try to reproduce this morning. He quipped, "We Unitarians are the ones who are often accused of being soft on Christianity." Yeah, it got more laughs just now than it did when he said it. Denominations aside, I am a fellow seeker. I hope you don't mind if, over the next few minutes, I share some of that seeking with you. Given that you Unitarians are a forgiving lot, I won't worry if my seeking brings us back to where we started. One quick note before I begin. I appreciate being asked to select this morning's hymns. The ones I chose have no particular relevance to my remarks. Rather, they are among the earliest hymns I can recall. As such, they are a link to my spiritual past, which is one of the great gifts that music and musicians can offer to us. Let's begin. How I learned to play the shofar and other spiritual reflections. August 1975, West Palm Beach, Florida. It's a late summer day in South Florida. I'm sitting in a barber chair in Ed Tucker's barbershop. The smell of talcum powder and Vitalis hair tonic, which are also the arresting aromas of Rotary luncheons and Masonic rituals, overwhelm the barbershop's asthmatic air conditioner. My mother and brother are sitting across from me. She's leafing through an old issue of Good Housekeeping, while my brother is absorbed in a comic book. The barbershop is located on Dixie Highway, an aptly named thoroughfare that runs through the heart of a city that had been fully segregated barely 15 years before. My brother, the one in the midst of helping Batman protect Gotham City, is my fraternal twin. We are about to turn 13. Needless to say, adolescence has crashed onto the scene like an uninvited party guest, the victimless crime of puberty disturbing everything in its wake. Despite this fact, or perhaps because of it, our father, who isn't particularly strict, insists that we get our hair cut every 2 weeks. The barber who's cutting my hair is Ed Tucker. He's the one whose name is on the sign out front. Middle-aged, bespectacled, and affable, he's emphatically a barber, not a hairstylist. A couple of years before, when we show up for the second or third time to get our hair cut, Ed pulls a prank on my mother. "Play along with me," he whispers to me with a twinkle in his eye. He then lets out an exclamation, covering my left ear with one of his hands, while at the same time dropping a fake blood-covered ear to the floor. My mother, to her everlasting credit, doesn't scream, even though she herself is in the throes of menopause. That said, her unpredictable conflagrations of hot flashes don't mix well with fake ears or teenage sons. Note, I hereby nominate that observation as the greatest understatement of all time. Sons with missing ears and mothers with short-fused tempers notwithstanding, we don't learn until a couple of years later that Ed is a World War II veteran, that he had fought in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in the South Pacific. It was the largest naval engagement of World War II. More than 1,600 U.S. sailors and airmen lost their lives. There are no jokes or pranks when Ed tells us about the bloodshed he witnessed more than 30 years before in a place 8,000 miles from home. But that isn't part of our conversation on that late summer day in 1975. When I get up from the barber chair, I notice something hanging on the wall. "What's that?" I ask Ed. He takes it off the wall and shows it to me. It's a ram's horn. We call it a shofar. The we he refers to are Jews, individuals who, then and now, constitute a large and vibrant community in South Florida. I'm already aware at that young age that the public schools in West Palm are sometimes closed on Jewish holidays because so many students would be absent. I have friends who teach me about Hanukkah, dreidels, and mezuzahs. I break bread with them at Passover. Ed continues his explanation. "I'm the one who plays the shofar at my temple," he notes proudly. "It's the voice of authority that calls people to return to God." Lacking any other reference, scenes from the movie The Ten Commandments appear in my head. "Give it a shot," Ed says, handing me the ram's horn. I slowly put it to my lips and try my best, but I can't produce a single sound. Only silence results from my puffed cheeks. Saturday, September 1st, 1962, West Palm Beach, Florida. It's a muggy evening after an afternoon high of 91 degrees. My mother and father are at Good Samaritan Hospital, which is a familiar place for my mother. She and her sister were the first set of identical twins born in that hospital back in 1926. However, she didn't know that she is also going to give birth to twins, at least not until a few hours ago, which is when she went into labor. This is what my brother and I will later dub the pregnancy story, an historical epic that my mother will recount each year on our birthday, the becandled cake waiting to be cut until my mother reaches the end of this narrative that's not unlike an Icelandic saga. Admittedly, it's a dramatic, even heroic tale. My mother is 36 years old with Rh-negative blood when they wheel her into the delivery room. She's been completely bedridden from her 5th month of pregnancy. My brother and I are arriving 12 weeks premature. I've insisted to my brother that we not be late to our own births. They have to stabilize our weight at 2 pounds. My brother is born with a club foot and a heart murmur. I'm born with a hernia and a cowlick. We spend 6 weeks in incubators. Nobody knows if we'll have cognitive disabilities, though the horrible word they used back then is retarded. The part of the story that my brother, who is now a research immunologist, likes the best is that he is the one who had a name. Let me explain. My parents had picked out one name for a boy and one name for a girl. You see where this is going, right? The boy's name is my brother's name. As for me, I have to spend the first few hours of my life nameless. The card that's placed on my incubator simply says, Baby B. My brother was born first, which is something else he relishes. My parents quickly agree on a second boy's name, but for reasons that are never clear, they decide that I'll be called by my middle name, which they hastily affix to the aforementioned card. If you doubt what I'm saying, which usually there's good reason to do, I have brought with me today the card that was on my incubator that says Baby B. It is now 61 years old. I'm not 61, but the card is. So, there I am, not quite a day old, lying in an incubator, and like the position of the name I'll be known by, I'm in the middle. I'm at the very center of all that I can perceive. Regardless of names, this is true for everybody when they enter the world. And when we make that entrance, the only perspective we have is ours and ours alone. Now, we gradually become aware of other human beings, but it's a long time before we begin to understand that they, not us, are at the center of the world they inhabit, and even longer before we attempt to see the world as they do instead of the way we do. Now, as for the pregnancy story, it has a happy ending. My brother's heart murmur ceases on its own. His foot is straightened out after wearing an iron brace for a year. My hernia is repaired when I'm 10 days old, and my cowlick becomes the signature feature of my movie star good looks. Dear diary, I can't figure out why they laughed when I mentioned my good looks. Friday, October 15th, 1982, Tallahassee, Florida. I'm a sophomore at Florida State University. Classes are over for the week, and my cowlick and I are having a late lunch in front of the TV in my apartment. My backpack, 10-speed bike, and recently purchased poster of a shirtless James Dean are napping near the door. My roommates are at a local watering hole getting an early start on their Friday night watering. I'm a news junkie and have become addicted to a new 24-hour cable news network called CNN. Today is a slow news day, so CNN is broadcasting a routine press briefing by Larry Speakes, who serves as President Reagan's press secretary. Lester Kinsolving, a talk radio host, asks Speakes about a horrifying new disease called AIDS. This disease, soon to be upgraded to an epidemic and then pandemic, seems to be targeting gay men. What's AIDS? Speakes asks. It's known as the gay plague, Kinsolving replies. Everyone in the room laughs. Well, I don't have it, Speakes replies. Do you? The room again erupts in laughter. My backpack, 10-speed bike, and poster are now wide awake. Speakes continues to respond to Kinsolving's questions with one-liners, joking that Kinsolving himself might be gay simply because he knows about the disease. Quite the comedian, this Speakes guy. There are 6 more outbursts of laughter before I turn the TV off, unable to watch it any longer, unable to finish my lunch, unable from feeling a sense of shame. I came out a year ago, though I haven't told my parents yet. I barely know about AIDS. It's clear that everybody at that press briefing thinks that gay men are freaks, grotesque predators, not even worthy of compassion if they have a terminal illness. Why do so many people see things from such a narrow, dehumanizing perspective, I ask myself. A snippet from one of John F. Kennedy's speeches that I've recently read for one of my classes comes to mind. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. As more and more of my acquaintances die from AIDS, and as the vilification of LGBTQ individuals increases, and as I fend off feelings of self-loathing, I'll come to realize how accurate Kennedy's statement is. I'll also become a spiritual seeker in search of a community that won't condemn me for who I am. Thursday, July 16th, 1987, Notre Dame University, Notre Dame, Indiana. My partner Richard and I are finishing a bite to eat in one of Notre Dame University's dining halls. Among those in the dining hall with us are members of the Fighting Irish football team, a year away from winning yet another national championship. I'm agog at their size and how much they eat. When they finish their food, they eat the tables and chairs. Richard and I are spending 6 weeks at Notre Dame because he was selected to participate in a national seminar on the ancient Roman orator Cicero. Employing a bit of benign deception, we decided that I would accompany him as his friend who wants to use Notre Dame's famed library to conduct research. That last part is actually true. Richard and I are still in the early months of our relationship. To be sure, that's the only reason that could compel us to squeeze into a single bed in an unair-conditioned dorm room in the middle of a very hot summer. As we walk back from the dining hall to our room, we pass First Down Moses, who is not to be confused with Touchdown Jesus, a mural that stretches along an entire side of the 14-story library. Richard, in mortal combat with these theological surroundings, is in the midst of yet another rant about how utterly idiotic it is for anybody to believe in any sort of God. For the record, he uses a phrase far less family-friendly than utterly idiotic, but I'll spare us from that bit of local color. At any rate, I know what he's doing, what we're both doing, if I'm honest. Here's the deal. We've gotten over the Elmer's glue and glitter phase of our relationship, and we've now entered the phase when the two of us are trying to determine whether, if this is really the person we want to spend the rest of our lives with. For his part, Richard has been attempting to figure out if someone as intelligent as he thinks I am could truly believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Those are the charitable words he uses to describe my religious faith. He simply cannot see things from my perspective. For me, I'm wondering if spending the next several decades with Richard will entail buying real furniture at adult prices, or involve my always being the one who cleans the bathroom, or necessitate our giving the power of life and death over each other. The answer to my three questions will turn out to be yes. But on that evening, when a literal and figurative dusk threatens to overcome us, I interrupt Richard's rant. As calmly as I can, I tell him that we're going to have to agree to disagree about religion. We stand there in an eschatological silence. If we're fated to break up over religion, if this is the end times of our relationship, I say to myself, it might as well happen here on the campus of Notre Dame University. Later that night, the single bed we're sharing feels a little more uncomfortable than usual, but our relationship survives. Tuesday, August 24th, 2010, Greenville, South Carolina. The pulmonologist at St. Francis Hospital is telling me that he's never seen anybody recover who's reached this state, the state that Richard's now in. He's been hooked up to a ventilator for the past 2 days because he's contracted a very pernicious form of viral pneumonia. He went from being completely healthy to being admitted into the hospital within a scant 3 days. We're in the ICU ward surrounded by millions of dollars of medical equipment. This equipment has been designed to maintain and extend human life, sometimes without any thought to the quality of the life in question. Even so, I grasp at the straws of unlikely hope, wondering if there's another machine or another antiviral medication that might do the trick. But the doctor's tone, his inflection of finality tells me otherwise. After a pause, he says, "We've done everything we can. All we're doing at this point is prolonging the dying process." Without any further explanation, I know what he's really saying. He means that all they're doing at this stage is prolonging Richard's suffering. And when I think of it that way, when I see it from that perspective, I know exactly what Richard would say. It's the same thing he would have said all those years earlier at Notre Dame when mortality was just a figment of our imaginations. He would say, now, do it now, don't wait a second longer. After I give the instructions to remove the ventilator, it takes only 3 minutes for Richard to continue his journey without me. It was the day after our 24th anniversary, the first day of fall classes at Furman, 5 days before Richard's birthday, and 8 days before my birthday. We were only 3 days apart in age. Friday, June 26, 2015, Greenville, South Carolina. It's a momentous day. I'm live streaming the audio of Justice Anthony Kennedy reading his majority decision in the U.S. Supreme Court's case Obergefell v. Hodges. It's the so-called gay marriage case. To be accurate, it's not just one case, but the consolidation of 6 cases that represent 16 same-sex couples, 7 of their children, a widower, an adoption agency, and a funeral director. Even though that sounds like the beginning of a bad joke about a motley group of people who enter a bar in Belfast, it's difficult for me not to get choked up. I recall the news briefing I watched 33 years earlier when everybody laughed at the phrase gay plague, and when some people were claiming that AIDS was God's judgment and punishment of gays. Justice Kennedy reaches one of the final sections of the Obergefell decision. Marriage, he intones, responds to the universal fear that a lonely person might call out only to find no one there. It offers the hope of companionship and understanding and assurance that while both still live, there will be someone to care for the other. As Kennedy notes, this isn't about gay marriage versus straight marriage. And despite his use of the word marriage, it's not just about marriage either. At a deeper level, he's talking about the committed relationship that can exist between 2 people, between 2 helpmates, between 2 partners as they journey through life together. That's the perspective he takes. Saturday, September 16th, 2023, Belfast, Northern Ireland. You see, the reference to Belfast was not gratuitous. So 2 weeks ago, I'm here for the marriage of my younger niece, Kira Colleen Mannion Henderson Whitten. It's taken me years of practice to get the order of her first 4 names right, and I'm still not sure if that's the correct order, says the person who began life nameless. The weather is gray, but given that I'm in Northern Ireland, that's a redundant statement. That was a joke. At breakfast earlier in the day, the server persuades me to try the local custom of putting a splash of Bushmills Irish whiskey on my oatmeal. "Oh, so you'll be having some whiskey on your porridge now, will you?" It went something like that. After I've eaten a couple of bracing spoonfuls of this potent combination, I conclude that this is how the Irish cope with the depressingly gray weather. Several hours later, having recovered from the oatmeal, I hear the Belfast String Quartet begin to play the wedding processional. I recall the day 24 years earlier when I stood at the altar of a church in Seattle, Washington, affirming my role as one of my niece's two godparents. Regardless of sharing sunless and rainy climates, the two cities, Belfast and Seattle, are not at all alike. Belfast is a fractious city. Scarred by violence, it has dozens of urban murals that memorialize sectarian martyrs. For many who live here, their viewpoints are entirely determined by whether they identify as a Protestant or a Catholic. It's a place of irony and contradictions, where a peace wall is topped with barbed wire. My niece is now making her way down the aisle. For some strange reason, there's water streaming down my cheeks. The congregation's contagious crying stops, and the ceremony begins. When they get to the exchange of rings, the celebrant doesn't speak about a Protestant ring or a Catholic ring, even though my niece is an American Catholic and her soon-to-be husband is a Northern Irish Protestant. The two of them are agreeing to be helpmates and partners, a commitment that need not concern itself with labels that don't matter. As Quakers say, we are here to know one another in the things that are eternal. My niece and her husband will build bridges, not walls. After the two of them exchange rings, I read a short excerpt from Bo Taplin's poem, Buried Light. Home is not where you are from. It is where you belong. Some of us travel the whole world to find it. Others find it in a person. August 1975, West Palm Beach, Florida. We're back in Ed Tucker's barbershop on that late summer day. I told you we'd probably end up where we started from. My mother is still reading Good Housekeeping, and my brother is still reading a comic book, though he's switched from Batman to Superman. As for me, I have failed for the third time to produce any sort of sound from the ram's horn. Ed, a man who's seen and survived the unspeakable horrors of war, is quiet with kindness and patience. The air conditioner emits a few coughs of cold air. Ed knows from our bi-weekly conversations that I've begun learning how to play the trumpet. So he looks at me, the 13-year-old boy with a cowlick, the boy who almost didn't make it into the world alive, the boy who is showing absolutely no interest in girls, and he says to me, "The ram's horn is just our version of a trumpet. Why don't you think of it that way?" So with a great deal of trepidation, I again place the ram's horn to my lips. With eyes closed and shaking hands, I produce what I'm quite sure is the most glorious sound that has ever come out of a ram's horn. Whether I called anybody to God then or since is debatable. It is, of course, simply a matter of perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson and his cowlick. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us together in singing hymn number 200, A Mighty Fortress. Let our voices rise together as we extinguish the chalice by reading the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Good job, you guys. Because it wasn't me.
The benediction is a short Irish blessing. May the raindrops fall lightly on your brow. May the soft winds freshen your spirit. May the sunshine brighten your heart. May the burdens of the day rest lightly upon you. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rain fall soft upon your fields. May you be poor in misfortunes, but rich in blessings. May you know nothing but happiness from this day forward.